Okay. Welcome to ZenMadman versus Machine round 2. Today we are going to look at cutoff raise first in versus button cold call. Perhaps I will have a video over here that you can click through for learning how to set up these scenarios and then train them yourselves. But let's just get right into the play. We're going to play 10, 20, 30 hands, something like that. And I'm going to talk about my decision process. Now, monotone flop. The out of position player does a lot of checking. In position player probably will as well. This does not feel like a hand I feel compelled to bet, so I think we can start with a check very clearly. Oddly, if we look down here, right, it says, yes, you are supposed to check 80% of your range. However, this hand actually makes quite a good bet. And I suppose that's because we can fold out lots of equity, like better ace high hands. Maybe even some pairs, I don't know. We can hit a 4. We really don't mind when we get raised off our equity because we don't have that much when we get raised. So a little surprising there, but we're supposed to check it some of the time. So it's probably on these boards that you're supposed to check a lot. It's probably not going to be a mistake to check any given hand. Little bit of a cheat code there. Okay, so the 10 on the turn, is that good for my range, their range? I don't know. I think I'm going to hit the 10 more, but that's not necessarily going to cause me to bet that much. I do think because I was wrong about the flop and this was supposed to bet a fair amount on the flop, we probably should be betting the turn, maybe even like over betting the turn, but I am going to check anyway because, hashtag knit life. Interestingly, it's like, no, just check pure now on the turn. So I guess basically on the flop, we had our chance. On the turn, it's like, it's too late. You got to check this. We don't bet. We bet a little bit more of our range on the turn than we did on the flop. On this river, I don't think I can get much value. I think a jack bets a fair amount on the flop. A 10, I think, is probably just folding to a bet. And the solver will have slow plays in their range that a human simply would not. So I'm going to check this hand. Perhaps I can get some small value with it. If I had a better kicker, if I had like ace queen here or something, which maybe I bet on the turn, but I would be more inclined to try and go for value here. And the solver's like, no, you can get value. You can get value. You just got to bet really small, right? And now when they bet full pot. Geez, can I just fold for full pot? I do have top pair, right? Are they just turning all sorts of things into bluffs? They don't have, I guess they have a lot of air still, right? They could have betted on earlier streets. Full pot, it's like ace high, like, do we actually fold top pair to the first act of aggression we have seen in the hand? Probably not. On the other hand, like, we definitely don't beat any value. And it's a little weird spot for them to have a lot of bluffs. I'm going to call, and apparently that's pretty neutral EV. They made the wheel full. I didn't even really think about that. This completes, I was thinking about king queen. I was thinking, I think they bet that on the turn, but it also completes 4-5, which, in fairness, if we go back and we look, like, it kind of wanted them to bet the flop and the turn, right? It was like, yeah, you can bluff with this hand some. So not catastrophic, right? No, I guess there is an EV loss here. This is minus 0.25 in EV, but it still wants us to call some. So that's a little curious, but we'll just proceed. Kind of an ignominious first hand. All right, 9-5 deuce. Probably a good amount of checking here. I do have the backdoor nut flush draw. That's nice. If I check, I think I can call a bet pretty comfortably. So I'm going to begin with a check. I think this is a board we probably can range check rather. Definitely not range bet. But maybe we bet it a little bit more than I would naturally think. No, this is just a pure check. Look at that. It's like 99%. They bet small. I wouldn't be shocked if this is an okay check raise. I am going to check call, however. I think folding's out of the question with the ace of diamonds. Yeah, it's like you could check raise that, sure. But it definitely doesn't want us to do that too often. There's no reason to have any leads on a card like this. It certainly favors them more than us. They overbet ace high. We're not heroing off against overbets with ace high, especially, at this point, we don't want the ace of diamonds, right? Because a lot of the hands that they might be barreling are going to be bluffs. Like on the flop, this gave us equity. On the turn, it blocks bluffs. So pure fold. And with range, we're doing a lot of folding and then sometimes putting in like a big raise. And, you know, sensible from them, right? I mean, on the flop, they're like, sure, I'll take a stab. I've got, you know, double backdoor and 2 overs. On the turn, they're like, I gained equity. Let's go. And this large sizing, you'll see the solver really likes this large sizing with this hand especially, but overall with range as well, that's the sizing that is preferred. Mostly because that card's just like, it seems like it's so much better for them. Okay, so I have a pair. They have checked this board. I think this is a board that does some betting, right? Once they check, this feels like a hand that I can protect equity a fair amount. I don't think I really need to be betting large here too much. I think third pot, this is probably a hand that's going to mix. Yes, it mixes. It's like right in the middle of the range, right? Where it's just like, yeah, play it like you play your range, which is mostly betting, but a good amount of checking. And against a human, you can probably bet this spot way more than the solver says, and it's going to be pretty effective. I think people bet their like Queen X way more than they're supposed to. And so you can do pretty well there. Oh, I forgot to do the start recording. Whoever cares. Yeah, anyway, maybe I'll cut that part out. Cutoff is checking. This type of board, I think actually they have a good amount of bets. So this might be a board that we can use a larger sizing on. I kind of feel like we can, but then this hand doesn't feel like a hand that really loves a larger sizing. So does that mean we check it? I don't think so. I think it's a little too good to check. I think we're going to go small, but I don't love it. I think maybe I need to go bigger, and I'm pretty sure this is going to mix. I think like everything's going to mix here. Yeah, bigger. Okay, I should have gone with my gut, right? I guess I was just doubting it because I was thinking, is this hand good enough for that? Yeah, it is. It's good enough. So go big. Although you'll notice that the EV of every single action was plus 4.69. Very nice. So that was an error, but 0 EV loss, which is hilarious. Whereas earlier I made a play that lost EV, but was not graded as an error, so it didn't count it as having any EV loss. On this, I think we can bet small, or we can check. Probably a fair amount of checking in this spot, but I will put the bet out there. And this is kind of the thing I'm talking about. Like, I think in game, I look at this and go, oh, I can bet some, I can check some. And then I bet most of the time. And it was like, yeah, you're only supposed to bet 10% of the time. Am I checking it 9 times out of 10? Not now. I mean, maybe I will start to. I get raised and like, I hate it. But, I mean, can we like find a fold here? This is the sort of thing where when it happens in reality, like I'm already thinking about like, what am I going to do on the turn? Like there's 3 good turn cards for me. You know, I'm crushed by pocket 4s. Pocket 10s, they're flatting a lot. Ace 10, I don't think they really have offsuit. So if we think about, well, there's only one combo of ace 10 suited, right? Ace 10 of spades. And there's only one combo of ace 4 of ace 4 suited, which is ace 4 of clubs. And then there's 3 combos of 4s. So there's not a ton of hands that like I really should be that concerned about. Ace queen, they also have some of. I'm not sure that would raise here though. Yeah, I call. It's like almost a pure call. If anything, you're supposed to re-raise, which I'm not quite sure what the idea behind that is. Now they bet pot. I don't think we're meant to fold top pair good kicker yet, but there's like so few draws. I mean, they do find a way to find, you know, bluffs and stuff. They can certainly have ace X of clubs, but then I don't know. Maybe we get to fold this now. Maybe we get to fold it. No, we do not get to fold it. You know, it's the sort of thing that's just such an uncomfortable spot against a human because they're not finding the bluffs. But like I'm trusting the solver to find the bluffs, and that's why I'm still calling. Now, do I have leads here? I think I just don't have any leads, so I think we just check. And then when they jam, they're gonna have 4-4, and they're gonna have clubs. But they don't jam, they use this small bet sizing. I can't imagine I was supposed to call the turn and then fold this river. We are losing to clubs now, like a weird king queen or something. You know, maybe a hand like ace 10 still bets and we get, you know, they value cut themselves. They did flop a set of 10s and we actually can mostly fold the river. Like that's so weird though, right? Like turn, pure call, river, almost pure fold. I improved on the river. Obviously, we don't really want the club. But so I guess a lot of their turn barrels were picked up clubs. Like, are they just raising the flop with like 7-8 of clubs or something and then barreling that? I don't know. Maybe 4-5 of clubs, and then that's barreling, and then that gets there. So I guess we can fold the river. Like, in reality, I don't know how I actually play this hand against a human. Let's hit replay hand. Let's hit replay hand. What happens if I check the flop, as it wants me to mostly do? Right? What happens here? They bet. Okay, we definitely don't fold yet. We call. Pot's a little smaller than it was. Also, their range is a little wider than it was. Probably, right? We check again. This is not a card we're going to have donks on. They're going to overbet, right? Against an overbet, do we get to fold now? Well, we were facing pot last time, right? So their bet size is actually similar to what it was in the other line. Maybe we get to fold. Probably not, though. Yeah, it's close now, right? And jack of clubs on the river. And now what do we do? What do we do now? I mean, I still don't think we're really going to... Maybe we can have some leads here. I don't think this is one of them, though. Not against the line they've taken. Now, they just show it down. So weird. And they're supposed to jam like a small amount of the time. All right, well, let's move on. There's, yeah, you know, bot's gonna bot. Okay. I flop middle pair, top kicker. Let's try and talk about ranges first, though, right? So this board, they've got all the aces, ace, king, king, king. So they have a nuttiness advantage. We both have 4-4, I think, at similar frequencies. They have all the jack-jack. I have little jack-jack, like very little. So they definitely have a nuttiness advantage. King-jack offsuit also they have, and I have at some frequency. I have to remember my range is smaller. So yes, they have a nuttiness and second-tier value advantage, but it's not as big as I'm thinking. So I do think they're going to bet fairly frequently. If we look... Yeah, they're supposed to bet more than half the time with their range, which in this configuration is a fair amount. Against a half pot bet, mid pair top kicker seems like a very clear continue. I do get to fold more on these high card boards, but this is not a hand that I get to fold. On the turn, if they like overbet or something, I think maybe I do get to fold. Now that they have checked, I think there's a very human tendency to want to kind of put in an inflection bet here where, okay, they probably don't have a king. We're going to put in a bet in case they pick up like clubs or something and they're just going to call and then we're going to check down river. I don't think the solver loves that kind of play. I don't see a lot of betting with mid pair. This is mid pair top kicker, but on the turn, I think this is a check. Yeah, so it's like bet a little bit, but not very much. That's another one of those things where I think people bet like way more than like we're meant to. Okay, now that there's another king on the river, they check. We're closer to showdown. There's nothing to like defend against. There's no equity to deny. They are going to have more king X than a human would. Humans just aren't going to show up with much king X here at all. But I think we get to go for value. I think it's probably this half pot sizing. I'm kind of pulled towards this 3/4. Where basically what we're targeting is like Jack X and maybe some smaller pocket pairs. Pocket queens are a real possibility also. And like maybe the small bet is even more effective, but just I feel like structurally the small bet doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Yeah, so okay. So I was torn between the mid and large bet, kind of like half and 3/4, and it's like, yeah, those are the sizings you should feel torn between. So I'm going to call that a win. They do call with pocket fives. That's nice. That hand was right on the kind of inflection point where they're basically making a 0 EV call. So maybe that hand folds for the larger bet. Although it doesn't really matter how it would perform against their actual hand. That's not really what we're interested in. Okay, we'll go to the next hand. 10-7-5, two-tone. I think this type of board had a good amount of checking, and I think it had very little raising. However, as far as hands that might bet and hands that might check raise, this feels among them. I'm going to go start with the check anyway. Oh, there's just no betting on this board, right? So very little is like basically none. I think I could go pot or overbet, and I also think we're probably supposed to check some. I'm just gonna go for the, oh no, so these monotone things, the flush comes in, I have to keep remembering, I don't think we overbet that much. I think it's pot. I think pot is the size the solver wants. It wants even smaller. It wants just like a little wee bet. So this was a mistake, very small mistake. You'll see the EV difference is like 0.1. It's like 1 cent. So, you know, conceptually, this is off. Although if we look at with the range, it's using the bigger sizing sum as well. So I'm not going to really worry about this hand too much. I think recognizing that the flop was checked a ton is probably the most important spot there. Oh, I just noticed this. This shows the combos. This is like our whole range. It's kind of like a little bit of a kind of a cheat. You can't see the whole thing, right? Because my face is in front of it. But I'm not going to be looking at that for this. I could make another kind of layout where this is bigger and you don't see the rest of it. Let me know, especially on YouTube, if you'd like kind of a little bit different layout, but the same concept. All right. Small boards, we basically just get to bet range small, right? So like, let's just go for it. This also is a hand that very clearly does well with the bet because we've got, you know, we've got a gut shot, we have a pair, we have a backdoor straight flush draw, and we can just deny equity to all sorts of like overcard hands like queen 8 suited of not diamonds. Spades probably calls, and we get a little bit of value there. All right. This is hilarious because you see this board and you see this hand, and the first thought is like, well, this hand clearly has nothing to do with this board. Up here it says straight flush, like 1% of range, right? I've got 2 combos that are straight flush, although they're all discounted, whatever. But yeah, so that's like a fair amount of my range because my range is so small when I flat the button against a cutoff open. However, this board is just a board that we just get to bet like with impunity. And we're supposed to use the larger sizing sum. I think the larger sizing, we kind of probably want to have something. But maybe this is fine with the larger sizing. I'm going to bet, I'm just going to pick the small sizing. Yeah, it's like, you know, you see these blue bars down here, and it's like bet almost range and almost always bet this hand. Now that they've check called, do we just give up? I think we just give up, right? I think we keep betting when we have some kind of more equity. Yeah, and we can bet a little bit with this, but you'll see this hand is betting much less than range. The top bar is how we play the hand. The bottom bar is how we play the range, right? And yellow is check or call, the passive action. So they've bet, and we have king high. I mean, does this make a good bluff raise? Not really, right? I would think we'd want a 9 or a diamond. And it certainly doesn't make a good call. So we put it in the muck where it belongs. They flopped a set. You know, they flopped a set on this very scary board, but all they were able to do was check call, check, check, and then bet river because like the board is just so good for our range. And I think it's just important to keep that in mind when you have a hand like a set out of position on a board like this, where it's like, you really want to pump up the pot? I don't know. All right. Queen 9-4 two-tone. I do think we get to do a decent amount of folding on this board. Overall, the button against a third pot C bet from out of position from the cutoff, I think was folding like 20% of the time. So with a backdoor and a pair, I don't think I'm gonna fold. If it were a different type of scenario where we're folding more than like 20% of range, I think sure, you can find a fold. Here, in fact, this even makes a decent raise, like a bluff raise. Again on the turn, like, oh, third pot, like, now I'm blocking multiple bluffs, so now the diamond and the spade are kind of liabilities for me. Sure, if the board, if a flush comes in, then like that helps me kind of bluff with it, but I don't know. I think I just get to fold now. Yeah, I mean, even against this small sizing, and you know, nice play. They did manage to get a bigger pair to fold, but have a ton of equity against me, right? And the other thing is just like, it's going to be hard to navigate turns and rivers rather, right? And that's one reason that people like fold hands like this on the flop, but opponents should be giving up a fair amount on different turns and rivers. Like if we look at this on this turn, they're supposed to bet a ton, right? But I'm sure on other turns, there was going to be a lot more checking. But that completed like Jack 10, which they have a lot of combos of. It's so dusty. Okay. King 6-7 two-tone. I forget how much they're really supposed to bet here. I think on king high boards, that's where they do some of their most betting. But for a third pot, you know, Again, in position, we're not doing a whole lot of folding against these third pot C bets. I have the nut flush, the backdoor nut flush draw, backdoor Broadway, an overcard, nut no pair. We ain't going nowhere. And in fact, some of these hands I need to remember, like, yeah, you can also raise them some as a semi bluff. Now here, I did pick up equity. I have a gut shot to the nut shot, but the 8-9 came in, which I guess I can rep, but also they can have, and they can go for a check raise. And also, there's a double flush draw. So I'm going to have so many really high equity bluffs. I don't think I need to be bluffing this so much, especially since I still have ace high. I still have the nut no pair. So I'm still beating a lot of things. And Solver says, yeah, you can bet this some, but you don't have to, right? You don't have to bet it that much. And now here on the river, I would mostly want to have a heart either to bluff this or to hero call this. I'm like so tempted though. But the ace of clubs is actually now a bad card to have, I think, unless they would usually barrel with ace high, and then maybe it's good to not have a different ace high. I don't know. What are they turning into bluffs here at this point? No. But like maybe, no. Yeah, queen 10. Okay, so some thin value there for quarter pot. And when people do this, like you could just raise them and find out whether there's someone who is going to bet second pair and call a raise for value or what, I like to do this like when I river the nuts in a spot where it doesn't make much sense for me to have the nuts and it looks like this is the type of thing I'm betting, and then I just bet 3-bet and then they call it off with like bottom pair. What? I'm referring to a specific hand. I have a video of that somewhere, but the other day, I actually had a bet 3-bet bluff in the spot like that, where I thought I had second pair as getting thin value. I think they were thin value raising with top pair, and then I was like, no, just fold. Okay, queen 5-4 two-tone, a couple low cards. I think I get to bet this fairly often. I do have the backdoor flush draw. I don't think I need to go big on this. I could be wrong though. This could be one of the larger. Yeah, no, okay, small. Should go with my first instinct, and ace-7 gets ace-10 to fold. That's a win. We're going to play 20 hands, right? So 7 more, and then we'll call it day. All right, so this board, actually, I think I do use large sizings because it's the double high card board. I do a lot of checking. However, with a gut shot Broadway and a backdoor flush draw, I think I can use this large sizing. Yes, no? Yes, look at that. Look at that. It wants to use this sizing 73.8% of the time. All right, very happy with that find. This turn, I did not pick up equity. I think I might still be able to go big, or I can check, right? Is this one of the better hands to go big with? I think no. I'm blocking diamond draws that could check, all check, fold. I'm blocking Jack 10 that I think could check, all check, fold for the big size. I'm also beating Jack 10 and a lot of diamond draws and a lot of spades they could have picked up. I think I might want to be blocking spades if I'm betting to try and block continues. Although if I'm going big, maybe I want to unblock spades so they could check call and then actually check fold them to the big size. I'm going to check, but I wouldn't be shocked to see some bets here. Yeah, so Solver basically says, yeah, check is fine, but when you do bluff, you do want to go pretty big. Not huge, but you want to be using this, this full pot size. All right, and against this, like, I am blocking Jack 10, I'm blocking diamond draws, so I am blocking bluffs. I'm not crazy about that. It feels close for like hero calling an ace high. I don't like my blockers, so I'm gonna fold. And it is a pure fold. And I was like slightly entertaining the notion of a bluff raise, kind of because what we just talked about in the last hand, and it wants to do that 3% of the time. So that's the thing. That's like, you can bluff raise these spots, right? Just don't do it way too much, because if you do it way too much and people catch on, that's going to be catastrophically bad. But if you do it just the right amount, and like maybe a little bit more than just the right amount, because people are going to overfold to it, I think it can be very powerful. So, all right, we'll do a few more. King 10 deuce, 2 high cards. These are boards that I think we get to bet a fair amount. I think actually we get to use the large sizing on these. It is two-tone, which generally means we want to use larger sizings, except we've got almost a 20-1 SPR, so maybe we're not as crazy about really bloating up the pot. I am going to go for it though, And solver's like, smaller bet's better. Probably go with the smaller bet, but it doesn't hate it, right? It mostly wants the smaller bet. Okay, and the trouble is now is like, I guess it's harder to get that value, right? But they don't have ace king in range. So I can think about my hand as being almost like ace king, except I'm blocking queen jack, which is a hand that maybe I would want to put a lot of pressure on. I'm going to go with the big bet size. This could be wrong. This could be wrong. This could be like super wrong, but I'm going to go with like the, yeah. So right concept, wrong execution. Overbet is okay, but pot size is preferred, right? So it's just a little overzealous. And I think it might be this kind of like the SPR so high and I'm out of position. So maybe we don't want to be using those overbets as much. With range though, you'll see there are a few overbets in there, right? I mean, when you bet, you're betting about 55% of range overall, and about 40% of your bets are going to be overbets, and the other 60% are going to be pot bets. So that's, you know, it was fine. It was fine. It was maybe not the best hand to do it with, but okay. Ace nine deuce two-tone. I think there's just tons of checking going on here. I'm trying to remember whether we had the 3/4 pot. I don't remember. So I'm just going to start with third pot. I also think checking some is fine. Yeah, so it is mixing. It's using some of the larger sizing, but not a ton. Okay, so this is that classic turn is a brick. Also, I have a monster. There are draws and stuff. There are draws they can pick up. I do think an overbet here feels quite appropriate with my range. This hand feels like a pretty good one to overbet. Sure, there's only like one combo of Jack 9 suited, which is also a flush draw. But I think a lot of their ace X hands, they're supposed to check call hands like ace king, ace queen. And I just gave those a bad beat. And I think I can go for max value against them. Yeah, look at that. Look at that. Basically like pure bet and a, pot and a half over bet is what it wants. All right, now ace queen re-beat me. I'm still beating ace king. I'm still beating ace nine, ace deuce. Pocket twos, pocket nines always were kind of possible. Queen jack suited also would be a weird hand that maybe they could get to here with. I'm kind of feeling the pot size or 3/4 pot. I don't think, like if I start jamming this, I think they're folding some of the hands that I want to get value from. So let's go pot. Although like, I don't know. I feel this draw from this like 3/4. Wow. Look at that. That's so weird. That's so weird. So with the range, it actually likes the jam. It likes pot. It likes this bet, the 3/4. But this hand actually really did want the 3/4. So I don't know. I'm gonna be philosophical for a moment. Like, why did I feel drawn to that? Is that like some intuition that like I've been doing this every day, and so I've been seeing spots? Is there some logic of like, yeah, you really don't want to go too big because you do want, even the solver understands like, even the solver understands like it's not just a human concept to want to kind of target different value hands, right? We do want to put, ace X in a spot by choosing the right bet size. And maybe there is just a feel of like, yeah, pot is probably just a little too much to put those those hands in a spot. Maybe it's just a little too easy for them to get away from them. And I don't want that to be the case. So I'm actually going to replay the hand and use the 3/4 bet size. I could have just clicked through it, but whatever. We're going to replay it. We're going to go bet. They're going to check raise some, maybe, right? Yeah, if you look at it, they're supposed to check raise like 46% of the time with that hand. This does want the overbet, right? That was good. And then I think this queen on the river, maybe specifically, but also just maybe more generally, maybe it was that this reduced the number of combos, and that can be extra scary to ace king also. And maybe then for full pot, they're like, well, I was worried about ace. I was hoping you had ace queen, and now I'm hoping you don't have ace queen. I mean, think about that. When you have ace king and then the turn's a jack, you're like, okay. And then the river's queen, you're like, oh, come on. Right? You're like, come on. Like, what do I beat now? Right? I beat bluffs and like a really ambitious ace 10. All right. We'll do 3 more hands. This is maybe this is going longer than it's meant to, because all these see flops, right? Okay. Monotone boards, we do a lot of checking. This feels like a fairly trash hand to be betting. Yeah, so it's just like check. Probably just check fold. Probably just check the turn as well. The jack I think is okay-ish for our range, but you know, like we got ace jack, but it's nothing special. Ace high also can be good, so if they want to just check it down with us, I think we're usually pretty happy to do that. The deuce, again, I don't feel quite like we want to be turning this hand to a bluff. Maybe we can now, but maybe we have hands like ace 7, ace 6 that we'd rather do that with. Yeah, so a little bit of betting on the river, but very little with this hand. And when they bet, I think we can just fold. I don't think we need to hero off here with ace high. And they turned top 2 pair and checked it back, right? A very solver-esque play. You'll see though, on the turn, yeah, they were supposed to bet about half the time with that hand using 3/4 sizing. All right, next hand. 9-7-4. This is a board that I think we just check pure. Yeah. And so it's like when the conclusion is that we want to check range, we don't have to think about our hand yet, right? We just think, what are we doing with the range here? Okay, this is what we're doing. If we're doing the whole range, just do it, right? You don't have to like dig in yet. Now, the board, now we've got backdoor nut flush draw. We have middle pair top kicker. I think we probably could check raise this a little bit, but mostly, I mean, we're never folding, right? This hand is quite good. Yeah, and that was about as high pitched as we wanted that thing to be because it was like 3%. That's what, you know, check raise a little bit is 3.67. That's exactly what that means. Okay, 9. The king actually looks like a card that we can have some donks on, and this feels like a hand that maybe we want to start donking the king a little. We're only using a third pot sizing. They don't give us any like big donk size. I'm gonna go ahead and check anyway though. And it's like, yeah, you do have some donks though. Look at that. Look at that. It's what, like 15% of range or something? 18% of range. So leading the turn was a good concept, but this hand actually just makes such a clean check call, right? And on the river, I don't think we can quite get value. Maybe we can use this quarter pot sizing, but I think they have a lot of 9x in their range and then a lot of just stuff that is nothing. Maybe they'll bluff with it now. Yeah, we can use the small sizing a little bit. Doesn't mind. And they have a 9 and they check it back. Interesting. So we each had a pair and a flush draw. Very interesting spot on the turn. Or, you know, not so much that the spot was interesting in terms of like the actual action, but just in terms of like, yeah, there's a lot of different types of runouts, right? Either of us could have made 2 pair while the other one made a flush. That would have been fun. Queen 9-3 two-tone. This type of board, I don't think we bet a whole lot. This hand, if we are betting this board, I think we can use this hand like 3/4 pot some, but we can definitely check it back some. Yeah, we're actually mostly meant to bet it, and I think the most common action is that 3/4 pot bet. So good to see that. Nice little positive reinforcement there on that theory. This card, I don't think particularly favors our range now. That's pretty decent though. But like the check range, it's hard to really think about like what does each player have in this check range, because you have to basically take all the hands that would have bet and remove them. So you're looking at this like negative space kind of instead of thinking about what does a thing, right? So I check it back. Now I'm just trying to get closer to showdown with my pair. Ace of diamonds on the river. On the river, pretty gross card. They bet, I think, just simple fold. With a diamond, maybe we can occasionally like make a play here, but yeah. And it's like, yeah, you can call this like 5% of the time. Sure, they've got the nuts, whatever. You're only losing a penny of EV. Okay, sure, nice story. Right, so thank you so much for watching. This video ended up a little longer. Let me know how you like the format in terms of, you know, ZenMadman versus machine. If, you know, screen layout, you'd like some changes, but also just in terms of picking an individual spot and then going over hands. Maybe I should include some of the sort of like PowerPoint stuff up front. That would probably be more interesting. I don't know. I'm experimenting with the formats and I am very open to feedback. So let me know what you think. Hit like and subscribe. Super helpful to the channel. Trying to grow it to 1,000 subscribers as fast as I can so that I can put more energy into making videos. All right. Have a great day. Cheers. Why do I do this? I do. Anyway. Okay. So that's the end of the YouTube video.